Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So what up, the internet? It's producer Kyle. How's it going? As you can tell, I'm a little blurry because I'm having to use the built-in webcam on my Mac. And as you can tell by the lack of beautiful comic art behind me, I'm not at the office. Why? Well, because apparently God has decided that Ohio should be Mr. Freeze's lair from that terrible Batman movie where they had bat nipples. The whole state is a sheet of ice. I was at the office an hour ago. It took me 40 minutes to drive home. My office is less than 2 miles from my house. That's how icy it is. But the people joining me today are not in places where it's icy, because if it iced there, everyone would die, it sounds like. So I've got one guy in Texas, one guy in Florida, or at least in the South somewhere. But I will say this. It's always warm here on The Experience, which sounded vaguely, what's the movie for? Vaguely erotic, which I didn't intend it to be. So I don't know. Look, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm in a mood. I've not had enough Mountain Dew today. Travis Gibb has a Kickstarter that I haven't backed yet because I'm a schmuck. But we're going to get that taken care of live on the air, or when it goes live, depending on the actual schedule of things that I've forgotten since we talked about. Look. Mountain Dew. What's up, the internet's producer Kyle? With me, as always, nice.
We're saying things that are in front of us.
Yeah.
T.
With me, as always, is Jay. And if you couldn't tell from our thumbnail for this episode, this episode's thumbnail represents the height difference between Jay and I.
It's too accurate, man. It's too accurate.
Yeah, I might have hit the nail too close to the head on that one, my friend. If you don't recognize this week's obscure movie poster, it's Twins, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. But as always, we like to have our friends come hang out on this show. And one of our friends who was in the chat last week, but who was able to make it in this week after rushing because I've been a terrible, terrible co-host and forgot to send links and things, is Travis Gibb. Travis, welcome in, man.
Hey, how are you? Good to be here.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, Travis is Orange Cone Productions, which, based on the number of those that I saw strewn about the road, people have been sliding into here. So Travis, tell everybody who may not know, and if you're in the chat and you don't know, can I visit your cave sometime? What Orange Cone Productions is and some of the stuff you do.
I want to know exactly who doesn't know me so I can find them and go to their house and do a PowerPoint presentation. Like, here is not enough. I want to make sure I'm involved and get connected with them. But for those who are afraid that me coming into their house is a little too invasive, I will say Orange Cone Production is a comic company. We have been Ringo nominated. We have won many awards. We do books such as Cthulhu Invades, Oz Wonderland Fairy Tales, all sorts of stuff. I do Granite State Punk, Coins of Judas, Voodoo Nation, Broke Down in 4 Dead Bodies. We ran Hospice. We do Holiday Spirits, yada, yada, yada. Lots of comics. But yeah, that's what we do.
So Travis hit my radar with the first Cthulhu Invades anthology, and I don't even remember who was working on it, who was helping you, or who had been contributed. That was like, hey man, you need to get this book. And ever since then, I've gotten them all. I've I think probably from buying them from you at conventions or something.
Right.
But what? Because I want to get into one of the topics I want to talk about is license IP versus public domain IP.
Okay.
Which is a really obscure thing that nobody's going to care about, but you're going to get it in a minute. Why did you choose Cthulhu invading these things?
Well, it was semi money making. I'll be honest. It was a money making idea. I like Cthulhu. I used to run Call of Cthulhu games. I used to do Cthulhu Live, like LARPs. I apologize for my voice, by the way. You know that Jay probably doesn't know, but my voice is very hoarse. I just did a 4-day con from MegaCon, and I'm still not recovered, even though it's Wednesday. But I wanted to connect with IPs because I realized, one of the things that we don't think about when we start making comics, there's a percentage of us who are they just want to do their thing, right? You want to tell your story and you want to put it out there in the world. But a lot of us want to work for IPs. We want to work and be part of something bigger, add to the legacy of something. So that's where I decided to tackle public domain and tackle these stories like Oz and Wonderland and Neverland, because for most people, this is the only time that they're ever going to be able to play with something that meant something to them at some point in their life, right? Maybe Alice meant something to you growing up, or maybe Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz is a fond memory of yours, or you really like the Scarecrow. This allows you to do that. And it allowed me to really entice creators to be part of it because it's something they want to write, right? If I made my own anthology, hey, make a horror story. It's kind of basic and boring. I know I do a horror anthology based on Christmas, but which is more exciting to you? Hey, have Cthulhu invade any of these cool fairy tale areas, or write another horror story. One is way more exciting. So, and one has more fan appeal.
Well, and we talked about one at Baltimore.
Yeah.
That that day comes, I've got a story in my head. I've never written a comic before.
It's next on the list.
Yeah, I've got a story in my head that'll be like, hey, Travis, if I can figure out how to write like a human, this idea, and either you find somebody to actually write it or somebody to help me and we get it done. So I love that idea of this is something that people want to play in. And that's how you come about it. I messaged you the other day because I saw that what I thought was one of your books was going to hit what I thought was the direct market. And I hadn't seen an announcement. I'm like, hey man, this is a big deal if it is. How are you dealing with as a independent self-publisher Kickstarter? How are you dealing with the general upheaval in the biz?
It's really hard. My dream is always to get in the comic store. So I'm always working on a publishing plan to do some direct market, some Kickstarter. And this is the first time I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore it for the whole year. I have 4 IPs that are coming out this year, and that's more than I normally put out in a year. No, 4 new IPs. Let me revise. I'm doing all my old ones, but I'm doing 4 new IPs. The next Kickstarter after this one is the first of those 4. And I'm not going to publish them to publishers because all it's going to do is cause me aggravation. Even if things get fixed, it's not the best time to do that, right? What is it going to look like? They can't give me all the promises that they think they can. I can't produce the success that I want. So there's just kind of upheaval and trying to figure it out. So I've got to double down on Kickstarter, but that's kind of tough with everything going on. And then you look at comics as a whole are changing with these tariffs. I know we've kind of paused it for right now, but a pause is not, it's not happening. It's just a pause. So you've got all these different things hitting us all at once. And it gets tougher and tougher. You can feel it. Like I was at MegaCon this weekend. It was the lowest sales MegaCon. I still did really well. So don't take that as I'm being crappy on the con or anything. But like one Todd McFarlane changes the whole dynamic because it sucks all the money in the room. And that's every con I go to these days. They get one megastar and it pulls it because indies are so overlooked because they want to get that stuff. They want to do that flip. They want to do all those things. So it's trying to figure out a way to get your stories. My goal, I'm going to pivot and try to put more stuff on Kickstarter, but try to figure out how to get into the book market myself. Try to figure out that.
I love how you say you add one Todd McFarlane and it sucks all the money out of the room.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like a big concern that I see amongst the Kickstarter set. And I call them that, but it's self-publishers, crowdfunders. What happens when Todd decides to crowdfund?
I mean, he has.
But I mean, like, to seriously do it.
Oh.
Like, it's because things are so unwieldy. What happens when Spawn is on Kickstarter? Like, just a regular old Spawn issue. Do you think that community will, I don't want to say adjust, but do you think it'll play?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are just realities of what's coming, as the direct market becomes less stable. And I mean, think about how many comic stores are going to go out of business with Diamond. Like, I don't think people realize they think of like, when they think of Diamond going out, they think of, oh, good, like I can get my comics. These people screw people over. All that's 100% true. But you don't think of Diamond as a business has been pretty good to comic stores. A lot of comic stores had lines of credit and they could only get books from Diamond. So, and now they can't. All these small presses, every small press that I was on next in line for, from Mad Cave's like the line, like, so anything below that's gone, like Scout or Source Point, all those guys, they're not going to be able to get, these books in stores anymore. And that's scary. I know Bloodline, I know Antarctic Press, all of them has put pause, on these things. And that's a scary thing that I don't think people think about. They think about the bad guys were punished. And yeah, Diamond was a monopoly for a long time, and I understand that they're monopoly, but they were also the only people giving a chance to small press. And these new companies, I'm not even mad at them. They can't take that risk, because they don't have the warehouse space. They don't have all these other things. And they don't want to punish creators. An average creator, I don't think people realize that since COVID came, so COVID blew everything up for a little bit. Since it came back, a lot of these small press people are as low as like 300 copies a lot of times. Very rare independent books are breaking 1,000. Prior to COVID, 2 to 5 was 2K to 5K was on average. So,
yeah, I think there are a number of those publishers that I know are business models were already adjusting before this happened. Right. You mentioned Source Point.
Yeah.
And I know that like Fabrice over at Fair Square was kind of making an adjustment, was planning some change. So I think some people are going to survive just because they were already disenfranchised with Diamond and were making changes.
Sure.
Others are going to struggle. I do know, and again, we kind of talked about this on our first episode of the show. Like Diamond gave me credit so that I could buy comics when I had no credit. Like they made a bad investment in me. Like, and it was a thing. So, we have another guest. Okay. I will bring him on in just a second. I want to finish my little thought here. But they were also doing that for small publishers. One of the things that was asked, and I kind of wanted to pose it slightly differently. Brian Polito has created his own crowdfunding platform.
Yeah.
Now, Brian Polito that's like saying Michael Phelps has invented a swimming stroke, right? Like it you get to a certain level and it doesn't count anymore. Like Brian Polito has had his own crowdfunding platform for years. It was just called His Corner of Kickstarter. Have you started investigating or thinking about other ways to crowdfund, crowdsource, crowd print, crowd whatever your products? Have you started kind of investigating that kind of thing?
Not really. I mean, Kickstarter's been really good to me. The success of Kickstarter and the stuff that I do on there is consistent. So it'd be hard for me to jump from the platform. I'm not Polito, right? But, you got to think of also Polito. Why is Polito doing this? Part of it's to save money and because he saw like Eric July do it for Rippaverse and stuff like that. But other is there's rules and restrictions for Polito. If you don't know or you back Lady Death, he was behind several books and owed people lots of books, and he wasn't able to put things on the platform for a bit. So part of it was kind of stuff. Now, Polito always takes care of its customers. It just may take a bit, so you got to think of all those things. So I'm not thinking of new crowdfunding platforms, but I am thinking of different revenue streams, whether it be putting my stuff into more digital formats, making direct relationships with comic stores. I've kind of ignored it and hoped that I'd get in Diamond and try that. I've even thought about this Massive deal. Have you heard about the Massive deal?
We kind of talked about it last week a little bit. But some more details have come out since we've done a show on it. But yeah, like the Massive deal, or have you looked at the ICV2 platform?
I have looked at that. I haven't even figured out how to do that yet, but I'll definitely probably do that. And even the Massive one, I know the math's not great, because I know what I'm worried about the Massive plan is certain creators have never been in the direct market. You should not use the Massive plan if you have never been in the direct market. You don't know how it works because it'll hurt you because you need to know realistically what you're going to sell, not what someone tells you're going to sell. What you're going to sell, what you've done in the past, because it can translate. I am looking at it only for the Cthulhu stuff, just because, again, like we talked about, it has an extra trade, and I have a garage full of them, so I don't have to print anymore. So I'm really looking at risking $500. That's not a bad investment or risk on that property, but I wouldn't put any of my other properties on there. So if that gives you an idea of someone who has about 40 titles, all together. Well, not 40 titles, but 40 issues total.
Yeah. No, I think it's an interesting thing. And I was talking to another crowdfunder who is investigating like individual book sponsorships and like things where it's, okay, we're going to crowdfund, but issue 10 of X book is brought to you by, Joe Smith's tire shop, or you know what I mean? Whatever, like, right. Going back to that patron model that, composers in the 1500s used, where you'd find a king who liked music and get him to give you money. Mm-hmm. You find a guy with some money and who likes comics and get him to give you some money. So it's interesting to see. I want to dive into this licensed IP versus open or public domain IP. But before I do that, I want to bring in someone who reads a lot of both, because I know what he likes to read. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. He was here last week. He sounds like Jay Muse, but he looks better than Jay Muse, especially if you saw the new Duncan commercial. Ladies and gentlemen, Triple B's Haunted Comics.
Yo, what's going down? Am I busting out too loud or am I good?
I don't know. Jay.
I don't want to be. Yeah, Jake, am I good on the audio?
No, you sound pretty good.
All
okay,
right.
Well, last time I came on, I was like, oh my God, I was like way loud, but
nah, you're good.
I got the backup rig, so I can't tell anything. Everybody's super loud and I'm super quiet, but it's
that's good.
Anyway, so go ahead, Truby.
No, I was just saying it's pretty interesting. I got done with my live. I kind of jump on. I take care of my girls. I got to give them some more food, make sure they got hydrated and everything. Heard what you guys were talking about a little bit with, I guess it's the distributing with Diamond and all that stuff. Very interesting to me, but I'm like really a novice to that. I'm like, that's kind of this. It's crazy. Like it blows my mind what's going on with it? Am I going to still be able to like go ahead and buy my comics and get them like when they're supposed to come out? Like,
So we'll talk about that in a minute. That's a good question. We'll move to that in a second because I have some insight. Only because they didn't make me sign an NDA on this one. But before we do, I want to dive into something that I think Triple B probably knows more about than thinks he knows. Travis, Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft is all public domain.
Correct.
You can do anything you want, and anybody can do anything they want with that.
Yes, there is a lie. There is a line where you can't, but
Right.
yes.
For the most part, if you are careful and you do a
Educate
quick,
yourself.
yeah, you do a pretty thorough Google search, you can get your answers.
Right.
But at the same time, we're seeing a lot of success with that, and like with the return of Zorro and some of these other characters that have entered the public domain. Look at all the Steamboat Willie stuff last year, right? But at the same time, we're seeing huge success in the comic industry with licensed IP, Thundercats, Gargoyles, that kind of, like, those are some Disney IP, but other people having licensed IP coming out. We're seeing big numbers on crowdfunding and on the direct market from licensed IP. So can you talk a little bit from your experience, Travis, about kind of the difference and why someone might lean into one and not the other? Or there's a reason why people wouldn't lean into the other. You know what I mean?
Not 100% sure I understand the question, but I'll try to answer it the best I know. So obviously public domain, you can use it free willy. You can do whatever you want. Your odds of you being sued are very low unless you target the one or the three companies that will still sue you even though they're in public domain. By the way, that's Tarzan, King Kong, and Conan because it's kind of in public domain, but it's not. So, but we'll go into that. And then I think when you look at, why we're seeing such a resurgence of these other properties, I think Marvel and DC, I think they're starting to get, I don't want to say stale, but I think they're oversaturated with, all the Marvel Universe stuff. With it, I wouldn't even say the DC necessarily has this problem. Marvel definitely does with all the stuff ever since Disney's taken over that they throw at you. I think people want to see these characters that they know and love, but they want to do it, so they'll get these licensed properties and be able to do them. Licensed properties are really good. Depending on the licensed property you get, it can be really, really profitable for you, but some of them can be miserable. For instance, I have been friends with and very close to doing stuff with Big Trouble in Little China 3 times. The problem is that people at Big Trouble in Little China really just want you to retell the movie. They don't want you to add anything to the mythos or anything like that. So you get yourself in a bad situation where you can tell a story, but the end result is not going to be great. And we also have these trends where these things come back, right? We've had it back in the day. Dynamite is very good at these trends. They've had the Highlander license before. Transformers has gone through several popularity swings and drops and swings and drops. Thundercats the same way and things like that. So I think when you're trying to figure out these things, I think they're safe bets. And when, go back into earlier when I talked about how low indie comics are, it's way easier to invest the very little it costs for licensing, because a lot of these licenses are pretty affordable, not affordable to average people, but affordable on the grand scheme of things. And it guarantees so many copies, right? It's going to guarantee you 5,000 sold, and then it's up to you more or less to do that. So it's going to be able to pay for itself and be able to do that. Does that answer your question, or did I not understand the question? Okay.
No, you got through the first part. I mean, the other thing is that a lot of licenses come with high fees, right?
Yeah.
You look at something like Thundercats is not cheap. Like the average Joe Blow can't go license the Thundercats, right? But a company like Dynamite can, or but at the same time, a company like Dynamite, and this is why I bring it up because Triple B reads a lot of Dynamite books. really walks that line between public domain and licensed, and you can't always tell which one's which, right? Like, for instance, Conan the Barbarian is a great example. That's a licensed IP, but it is also public domain. You know, you mentioned it. Red Sonja is a licensed IP, but it feels like it should be public domain. Vampirella is kind of the same way, right? Feels like it's been around long enough that anybody should be able to mess with Vampirella, but they can't. Triple B, when you're reading books, when you're looking at comics that are coming out, do you pay attention to that kind of thing, like to the age of the characters or to the age of, you know, any of that kind of stuff? Or do you just kind of just dive in based on the characters you like?
I mean, when it come to like the X-Men characters, then obviously I kind of know where they come from, but like new characters, especially Dynamite books, like Vampirella, like I didn't even know who she was until like it was like the pandemic times, and then like I'm like, who's this sexy vampire girl, right? I'm like, and then I didn't even like, so I started reading her, and then like, wait, how far does she go back? And that's when I kind of like would go back and like realize, holy crap, you know, she was from these magazines from, I still can't even remember how long ago, but it was a while ago, right? And then like even if we're talking like Dynamite, like with Barbarella, or you know, it's like what's going on with her, and I mean, and then they had like John Carter and Deja Thoris. It's like, are this like character domains? But then we jump forward. Now like now they have all these Disney characters, right? And like what are they doing with these characters? They just have the licenses from them, and they're just like distributor, publisher. Like I'm just like, I really don't look into like, oh, who owns what domain or who is public property right now.
Do you answer your question? Do you have any interest? Like, does an older character that you know has been around for a while pique your interest more or less than a newer character that you know is a new character? I guess I guess the way I would compare it is when you see a Vampirella book, are you more or less interested in that than say Sweetie Candy Vigilante?
Well, that would be
I'm targeting you. I'm targeting you
but
there.
I guess that no, for sure. Like when I see a new character, something like that, like Sweetie, like that thing just jumped my list. Like for sure, I'm like all one about her. Oh, she's brand new. Okay, now I get your question. Now there's a brand new character that just came out, and I can go ahead and like follow this character from here on out until I want to stop. And I don't have to like try to go back and buy a bunch of back issues or go buy a bunch of origin stories or this story, that story, this story to get caught up on it. I can start fresh. So, I mean, definitely it has to be the right character for any certain person to like. And like, you know, for me, yeah, that would be. And for somebody else, it could be a different character that's brand new. But yeah, I guess that brings back like I don't know, the passion of wanting to follow a character from their very beginning that we don't get to, like looking at like Wolverine or freaking X-23, you know. For me, like I wish I could have freaking got X-23, you know, the NYX series, you know, the very first one from Marvel, and started reading her from then on out. But I have like all of X-23's her first series or second series and so on. So
yeah,
I'm speaking with someone who's never read the at NYX. It's not that good. It's not that good. You're fine.
Yeah, I know. I do. I just have her number one in like a slab. It's like a 9.4. I got the first appearance of Laura Kinney and
sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I liked her first series though. I mean, how kind of her origin, and like they kind of did that with the movie a little bit with Logan. They kind of showed you that first series, that first 6 series with X-23.
Yeah, no. I guess I have this weird fascination because I'm going next week to Comics Pro, right? Which is the trade organization for comics retailers. And it's, if you don't know what that means, which I'm not sure Comics Pro always knows what it means. I love Comics Pro. I'm proud to be a member. I'm proud to be part of their convention every year. But you can't get two comics retailers to agree on anything ever. So to have an organization that, tries to get everybody on the same page and then speak with one voice is like trying to herd cats if your cats are also part space alien. Like it's wild. Anyway, but we will hear a lot about licensed IP, and this is entering the public domain, and we're going to do books with it. Like a ton of that stuff will get announced this next week for all of 2025 and part of 2026. So it's this interesting kind of dichotomy to look at. Do customers have more interest in new developed start from scratch characters, or do they have more interest in, well, like TJ mentioned, the King Features stuff that Mad Cave is doing, or these other now public domain entities? Jay, do you have any thoughts on this? Like, you've been very quiet, and I'm like,
I love listening to everybody. Is my problem. I'm a listener more than I'm a talker. Because first thing I want to say real quick, y'all, is most of y'all that know me know I'm not the biggest Cthulhu fan. I think Cthulhu has been overused, except for in two instances. In two instances, there's two people that I'm okay using Cthulhu: Dirk Manning and Travis Gibb. Because if you haven't checked out the Cthulhu Invade stuff, it's awesome. There's Coins of Judas was really, really good. Voodoo Nations, I believe is that one of the that's really good. Like, I'm a big fan, Travis, and it's nice to finally get to see you face to screen to face, instead of just talking to you behind the scenes when you come on the EXP sometimes. So
well, and so Travis right now is kickstarting Granite State Punk issues 1 through 5. Is this the trade? Like, am I losing my mind?
This is it. Yeah, this is where the season finale would be. This is the end. This is the issue. So this is the greatest time to pick up. It is a wild time. And literally people got, the last special issue, Only Posers Fall in Love, and this issue came on right after. It's wild. And, the cuffs are off too, as I announced, Scout and I parted on good terms, so I can do a lot of cool stuff that are different. It's kind of back in my realm, so it allows me to do some really cool things. I hope people jump on board, especially if you've never done it before. This is the time, and it's the book will never be the same after this issue.
All right, and you can tell me, you can just say no. Can you explain, without throwing anyone under the bus or without getting too into the weeds, where Scout is, what's going on with Scout? No is a perfectly acceptable.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I have an NDA. But I will say that I could say things that are pretty public. They had lost their. From what I understand, they lost their Luna publishing, and now with Diamond, that's going to be gone too. So it's going to be really tough for them. I want nothing but success. They did put me on the shelf. They took a rest from me. I did love that they did that. And they put a lot of great books over the years, from Electric Black to White Ash to Stake. A lot of amazing books have been gone through that company. So I don't have any bad will to say.
Right.
But I think it's going to be really hard to get out of this situation when they were already in a situation before,
Yeah, absolutely. No, we all we did a lot with Scout here at the Experience, and we always want the best for every publisher. We always want best possible outcomes, but we haven't talked about it very much because we haven't known very much. And so I knew you were with them, and that's a fair answer. Hey, we're going to see what happens, because I was on a meeting earlier with a publisher who was like, we're going to see what happens.
That's what it is right now. I had a couple of deals that, are kind of like, hey, we need to put in the back burner for everybody. Those things are happening. It's a scary time, especially in small press. When we talk about, going back to the main subject and kind of tying the two together, the two subjects, Mad Cave is at a level now because they get licensed characters. They are taken more seriously. They have more of the market share. They have all of that. even though they've put out great books, banger after banger, since they've been a publisher, but that put them on a different level to allow them to be able to do some really cool things. And I think that that's the power of these things. And that's why we see more of them, because sometimes you need that to take notice. Because if someone comes and buys Speed Racer, Free Comic Day, David Pepos has announced that he's going to be doing Speed Racer. If someone buys Speed Racer and now they see the back and look at a Mad Cave book, you now have a chance of getting them, hooking them, and putting them on stuff. Same thing as Dynamite. Dynamite has they have creator-owned books, believe it or not. They're very few, but they have some. And you may be able to find them if you bought your copy of Space Ghost or Vampirella or whatever.
Right. Well, and it's I was telling somebody this last night. I was talking to my friend Amani about how Mad Cave, because you get Dick Tracy, it's easy to point somebody to Kosher Mafia, which is a creator-owned title from David Hazen or Hazan. I'm not even sure how to say his last name. Hazan, and who is, by the way, like Nottingham. Like, yo, the man hit a home run. Literally his first book he put out was a home run, and his second
first book ever written.
Ever. Right.
Screw that guy. I love him. But
I love that guy. Right. But right. Like too much talent in one Australian.
Right. Unacceptable.
New Zealander. I forget where he's from.
No, he's Australian. You were right the first time.
Yeah. Too much talent in one Australian. But like, right now he hits another home run with Kosher Mafia, and it's an easy leap from Dick Tracy to Kosher Mafia.
Right.
It's an easy leap from the Phantom to some of the other things they're doing. And so I think the King Features stuff, the licensed material that they're doing, really does let you take a step to one side or the other into creator owned,
right,
into that realm, which is really important and really interesting. So I said I was going to talk about something because they didn't make me sign an NDA, and I forgot what the topic was. Diamond, yes. So I believe, and I don't know when it will be public, but we will get some very interesting information next week. Comics Pro, for those of you, again, I kind of mentioned it earlier, Comics Pro is the trade organization for comic book retailers, but almost every major publisher will be there.
Yep.
Marvel, DC, Image, Dynamite, Mad Cave, Dark Horse, IDW, everybody will be there. And like, I've got emails today from publishers that don't exist yet that will be at Comics Pro. Like, and when I say they don't exist yet, like they're hard launching next week.
Right.
Including some publishers that are spin-offs of other publishers that we know aren't going to survive the turmoil, right? But hey, I'm moving on to my next thing, right? I'm moving on and starting this next thing, spinning out. So I think we're going to get some big information next week, but there is a third player in the market. Well, a fourth, fifth player in the market now, but they're not in the United States. They will be at Comics Pro next week.
Are you talking about distributors? You talking about Universal?
I am. I'm talking about Universal, but I'm also talking about yet another non-American distributor that will be there that specifically has dealt for a lot of years with creator-owned zines. Not necessarily comic books, but zines and other publications of that nature. I don't know anything about them. I literally just saw the email pop up in my inbox and went, okay, there's no NDA there. I'll read this later. Like right now, my whole life is, what paperwork do I need to sign and return before they can send me their presentations for Comics Pro, because I'm producing Comics Pro. So like, I will read their information later, but I do know that they are a zine publisher. And they have been involved a lot in the translation of Big Two books into other languages. So I think that there is hope in that regard, but I think that the whole world is going to turn upside down a couple more times.
Yeah, I don't think it's dead. I don't think it's doom and gloom. I think someone will see there's value in the distribution rights and the relationships with the stores and all that. There's definitely something there. Know a lot of people go, they have a bad name. Yes, they have a bad name, but if you get someone, let's just use Universal. Let's say Universal can afford it. They have good relationships with Marvel and DC. Those relationships are back in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if the right person buys it, it turns around like that. The biggest will is getting back the goodwill of comic stores. The problem is comic stores is the one who suffers from this. You know, the comic stores and the small press suffer the most because small press, when you file for bankruptcy, they're not the ones getting paid. Like, they're just not. So any books, even though for them they probably pay like $3.50 an issue versus a bigger publisher is probably paying like $1.50. So their profit margins are lower, but they're not the priority because they sell less books. So if you're going to pay people to keep people happy, they're the bottom of the list. And by bankruptcy law, they don't have to pay you, or if they do pay you, they have to pay you pennies on a dollar. So that's the first job. Then comic stores, you talk about that credit that you talked about. A lot of these stores, like, this will be the final straw that's been killing them, to be able to keep them, and even more, not just stores. So there's in America, there's stores, but we also have these small little flippers, right? They're small little stores, but they order a decent amount of stuff. A lot of those aren't going to be able to get Luna accounts. They're not going to be eligible for that because they want brick and mortar. They want places. So, that's done. And maybe that's good for the market. Maybe less flipping is good, but I know that Marvel and DC is not going to see it that way, or Marvel's not going to see it that way,
Right. And well, like it's like, I know Universal does a lot of the similar credit terms to Diamond. Universal is the most Diamond-like of any distributor out there, right? At the moment, in terms of the way they handle things. Now, granted, Universal is primarily in the game sector at this point, and they're interested in the comic sector here in the United States. So it wouldn't shock me to see that become a direction it goes, right? And that Universal is offering similar terms to Diamond to everybody, because the size of their company being international, they can. It wouldn't shock me though if they go, we're not gonna. Right? Like, I think it could go both ways. So I don't know. I don't know what I can say and what I can't beyond that, right? I just have a little bit of insight that there are some other people who are making inroads, who are going to be face to face with your comic retailers, or a large portion of the comic retailers, in the next 2 weeks.
I mean, comics are the wildest industry. There is not another industry where Marvel and DC has decided the comics are $5 and everybody else toes the line. That doesn't happen in cars. It doesn't happen in anything else. Like, they set a term and everyone decides to coattail to it, because I know the profit margins. That's why so few people can compete, because they're the other people who get those profit margins, and the other people who can sell that many books to be able to force those profit margins. But everybody has to coattail, so it's an interesting business in that aspect. And then, comic stores as a whole haven't communicated in about 5 to 10 years. I know Jen King talks about this, a lot of others. And it's because of that why we don't have a saga, because every store is independent doing its own thing. So every store has their own saga, but there's not one person saying, hey, and showing data like this book is consistently good. It's a bunch of people, it's a bunch of publishers saying this book is selling really well. That's not enough, right? We're smart enough to know that I can tell you what book of mine sells really well, but that doesn't mean that it's selling better than a book at Mad Cave.
Well, so one of the other things I could talk about is the Comet standard, which is a new data standard for comic books. And it is being pioneered by Comics Pro. It is, if you go to cometstandard.com, the Comet standard is a metadata system that is being pioneered by comic shops in conjunction with publishers and distributors. That way we can say, hey, this is the next saga because here's the data.
Right.
Hey, this is how Travis Gibbs books do in the state of blah.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so in Ohio, even if I'm the only store selling them, everyone will be able to say, oh, this is unequivocal data of how this is doing. This is not self-reporting. This is scan data. This is the comic industry's version of BookScan.
Right.
If you don't know BookScan is every bookstore, when they scan a barcode, that data feeds the system. So we know exactly how many copies Barnes & Noble is selling. We know exactly how many copies Books A Million is selling, right? Every bookstore contributes to BookScan. So we know how many Dave Pilkey books are selling because, let's be honest, it's $4 billion a year. If you don't know how many books Dave Pilkey is selling, you're not paying attention, right? But getting into the comic standard, which we're going to find out a lot more about the comic standard next week, is going to, the more people who adopt it, the more people start to use it, the more we'll have data that goes up and down the food chain. So that, again, a guy like Travis could say, well, shit, Granite State Punk sells really well in New Hampshire.
Sure.
Well, let me work with comic shops in New Hampshire to make sure they've got enough issues.
Yeah.
You know, or hey, Cthulhu Invades Oz sells really good in Kansas. Let me work with local stores in Kansas so that Travis can use his limited resources, which, you know, everybody has a limited amount of resources, right? You don't know, but unless you're Disney, you don't have unlimited resources. You know, to make sure that he's targeting his books properly, which is super fun. So like I said, there's a lot of insight that's going to come in the next week. And so I feel like on this show and on several others, we're going to have a lot to talk about coming out of Comics Pro, especially once the handcuffs come off for this guy. But it's true. So there hasn't been a lot of big comics news this week. Has anybody seen anything interesting?
Yeah, the only thing I think of is a lot of comics shutting down. You know, Anarchic Press saying that they're shutting down, and you know, Blood Moon announced that they're shutting down. You know, a couple of stuff, but nothing really crazy. But that's typical the week before Comics Pro. You know, that's the typical response. They're saving it all for next week. You know.
The only thing I saw was that Captain America Brave New World wasn't that bad, so actually might be pretty good.
Somebody asked me when I'm going to go see it, and I went like, I think April. I'll finally get to see Captain America.
Yeah. Or when it comes out on Disney Plus, you know.
Right, like the next month this movie could not come out at a worse time for me. But so in terms of actual news that kind of hit, they announced the Eisner judges, which is a very interesting group this week. But for the first time in a number of years, I don't think any of the names on the list are actually like well-known names. If that makes sense? You know, for the first time in the last couple of years, the Eisner judges are all like, there are no big name editors. There are no big name retailers other than, you know, Etan Manhoff from Cape and Cowl, which is a big store. But there are no big name retailers. There are no big name editors. There's no big name creators. They're all sort of blue collar names in the comic book industry, which I think is interesting. Do you, Jay, Triple B, Travis, you've been nominated for some Ringos,
Yep.
Which is, I think the Ringos are cool because they're voted on by your peers and they're voted on by comic fans and comic people.
Yeah.
Do the Eisners carry any weight with y'all anymore?
I mean, yeah. I mean, as a comic creator, that's the dream, right? Getting Eisner winner or Eisner nominated. That's the top. That's the big cheese. So yeah, we submit all of our books to it every year, and hope for the best.
To me, it's kind of like movies, For some reason, movies have been given the standard of it's not good unless it hits $1 billion, right? I've seen plenty of $1 billion movies that I didn't think were very good. I've seen plenty of box office bombs that I thought were fantastic. I've read some Eisner books that I wasn't particularly big on, and I've read some books that other people are like, man, this book's kind of garbage, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, I mean, that's great for creators. Like, I get that makes, that's a big thing for y'all. As a fan, though, as long as the story's good, it doesn't matter if it's got a nomination or not.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about, but if it's some sort of awards for creators and writers for comic books, dude, I'm totally all in, man.
Well, I guess my question is so I remember when Mark Waid won the Eisner for his work on Daredevil Man Without Fear. That book was so good. And when it won the Eisner, all of a sudden it's selling 8 or 10 more copies every time it came out. Are you more or less likely to pick up a book if it's Eisner nominated or an Eisner winner? Or do you not even clock it?
You know how many books I read, so that's an irrelevant question to me. I'm probably already reading it anyway.
Kind of the same, right?
Right. I will give an anecdote that doesn't answer that question. That happened to me this weekend, though. I can't tell you who it was, but I will tell you they were from the Big Two. And they came to my table. They've known me for a bit, and they looked at my table and they said, "Wow, I can't believe how big you've grown and how much you're doing stuff. And I know that you want to get to the Big Two and you're really struggling with it. But let me tell you a story. There was a new issue coming out for this." Trying to be very vague to not even tell you the publisher. There's a new IP spinoff for one of the big things. So just to throw out there, like in the Batverse or in the X-Men universe, one of the sub books miniseries that they do all the time. I'm vague enough, right? I've said both companies, so we're good. I'm not going to get
right. You're not giving anything away, even though I think I have a guess.
And they said a name was brought up, and that name was actually even the name will screw me. Hold on. Let's go, Mark Waid.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pretend Mark Waid isn't the Mark Waid. Or actually, let's go Peach Momoko, right? She won last year, right? Did she?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go Peach. Peach is probably a little better. And they recommended, someone said Peach would be perfect for this group. They love, it's not Peach, by the way, for the record. Let's recommend Peach. She's really good at doing this art style. She's really well known. And they're like, oh, I'm not familiar with that. And this is an editor of one of these big ones. I'm not familiar who this person was. And this person has not only worked for Marvel, again, using Peach. Using Peach, but has worked for Marvel and DC. But they also are known for this and won an Eisner. So he's like, don't get upset if you haven't made it, because if they're not reading the Eisner books, you don't even have a chance of getting out of your books. And it really made my weekend feel so much better.
I thought I knew who you were talking about, and now I'm thoroughly confused. So you've done a good job of insulating yourself from whoever this was.
Excellent.
Because I would have put money on I knew exactly who you were talking about, and I knew exactly what book you were talking about, because I think I had heard this story myself.
Yeah.
But now I'm so thoroughly confused.
Good. I don't want an email tomorrow going,
yeah,
it's the last time I talked to you.
No.
But I think it shows we're at a state where Eisners, BB doesn't know what the Eisners are. And again, that's not a slight on you. Like, that just means that it's losing its weight, even though it shouldn't be, because they're still making the right choices. Every year, I agree with, I may have wanted another book to run, but I never go, that book shouldn't have been on the list. I never say that.
Right. So TJ brought it up, and I'm gonna wade hip deep into a story I don't want to wade hip deep into because, well, I think it's hysterical. Rob Liefeld got his feelings hurt. Do we actually care?
Have you read Watchmen?
Yeah.
It's 1986. Rob Liefeld got his butt hurt. It's 1997. Rob Liefeld got his butt hurt. It's 2012. Rob Liefeld got his butt hurt. It's 2025. Rob Liefeld got his butt hurt. It's 2036. Rob Liefeld got it. I
Right.
mean,
I don't want to diminish Rob Liefeld because
Sure.
I mean there are a lot of great characters that would not be what they are without his touch over the
Sure.
years.
and they shouldn't treat him bad. I
No.
agree with his statement, but
But they also treated Fabrice bad. They've treated so many people bad. Do we care that they also treated Rob Liefeld bad?
right.
No, I'm just again, this is from a fan's perspective, right? I appreciate that and it feels like people forget this. I was pretty sure Fabian Nicieza was the co-creator of Deadpool. Pretty sure it was Rob and Fabian that created the character.
Not if you ask Rob, but continue.
Well,
That's not a joke, Jay. Rob
Oh.
Rob actually.
I believe you. I've seen some of his whatnots. He's a character. I appreciate Rob laying the groundwork for a character that I personally loved before he really got big. But the character Rob created is not the character that they're putting in the movies. If that makes any sense. It's other writers that have added their own little quirks and stuff to them. I want all creators to get paid and get the flowers they deserve for stuff that's being put in movies and the games. Like I know there was something, I'm not 100% sure on it. Something happened with Matt Fraction and them using his art or something, but not giving him any credit.
That was on Hawkeye.
Okay, Hawkeye. But I mean, there comes a time where you just gotta stop caring. Like you just stop caring about this stuff. Like, okay, you didn't get invited to an after party, dude. So what?
Well, and I just want to bring TJ James' comment up here. Rob designed Deadpool. Fabian gave him the voice to the character, gave him the mouth, but he didn't. Like the original Deadpool was Fabian and Rob. The Deadpool Ryan Reynolds is doing is Danny Way. And later on, Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn.
One of the best Deadpool runs ever.
Deadpool wasn't funny when they wrote him. He was just sort of a smart aleck version of Deathstroke. Like, and I know that it's not a Deathstroke parody or it's not a play on Deathstroke or anything, but he was the same basic character with sort of a snarky attitude or an entitled attitude. It wasn't until Danny Way put the F word in his mouth for the first time that Deadpool really found his voice. So I don't know that Triple B hasn't chimed in, and I'm just gonna chalk that up to him not giving a damn. Like,
nah, I'm just here. I'm along for the ride here. You know, I gotta probably bust out soon because of the girls, but
no, you're good, man. But like I said, like
I'm listening to everything and like everything's making sense, dude. It's crazy.
He just muted himself. Maybe he did it on. Yeah.
I'm not muted now. I'm taking over the show.
I'm back. I unplugged everything. And I still can't hear you. Hold on. Oh no. What did I do?
You gotta love live, folks. Gotta love live.
Oh no.
Now I can. Yeah, no, you gotta love live in the middle of an ice storm. Like, I had
So
this
cold. So
ready
cold
to
over
go.
here where I'm at.
I had
It's
yeah, I had
crazy.
to-
It's 65 degrees last week and then it dropped to freaking 10 degrees this morning. So I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah, and like we're supposed to be cold right now, but all of a sudden we had like some really hot weather and it's like, what's going on? And it dropped, man. So
hey, I have a layover in a few days in Triple B's airport. Heyo.
What store do you go to in Salt Lake City? I go up there. I used to go up yearly. I haven't gone in a couple of years, but I used to go yearly. What store do you go to?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What store do you go to in Salt Lake City? What's your comic store?
Well, the problem is the nerd stores like took over, monopolized the whole Salt Lake Valley. So like there we used to be mom and pop stores like Zolt's Comics. Excuse me. Hold on a second.
This is the other thing about being live. Sometimes you start choking on your own existence and have to get a drink of water.
But
And
yeah,
Triple B's been live for a couple hours now, so
yeah. The nerd store took over like all the little stores here in Salt Lake County. So if I want to go find like a smaller store, I'd have to travel like 30 miles away. And I really don't want to do that. And so I don't go to any LCSs here. If I want to buy something, I'll buy it on my online store or through the EXP. I'll buy a lot of stuff through Dynamite, like for on their shows on Monday and Wednesday. But however, I do go to the nerd store because they have everything there, like pops, action figures. Their comic book section is pretty big and stuff. And so they always have new releases and stuff. So I've gone there and bought some books that just came out like that I didn't pre-order because I do a lot of pre-ordering. So it's like, I just wanted this, if I want to buy a bunch of books, I might as well pre-order them so I can save that money, on it.
Yeah.
I'm not a rich guy at all. I work, a full-time job, got 2 kids. So I'm your average collector that can only, spend so much money on books.
I like Black Cat out there. Black Cat Comics. I like them a lot.
Yeah, no, I will second Travis's only because there's somebody that I've worked with through the internet over the years, like good people. Okay, Leonard Pig has a question, and I know Triple B's got a dip in a second, but I think it's a fun question to kind of hit everybody with. If you were suddenly put in charge of Marvel Comics, what would your first order of business be? So somebody take it.
At Magic versus X-23. There you go. Give me some hot X-Men character girls having some sort of trouble, maybe on an island somewhere they get lost on, and then chaos happens, and then they want to fight each other, but then at the end, they have to come together to take over whatever threat that's on that island. I don't know, something like that. They got to be, it's super hot, right? It's like got to be wearing bikinis and stuff like that. There you go.
Probably do the same thing I do with DC and cut down on multiple titles. Just like DC has 50 Batman books, Marvel doesn't need all those X-Men and Spider-Man books. Keep it simple.
I'd work on Spider-Man. Just Spider-Man hasn't been consistently good. If you compare it to the big at DC, Batman has been consistently good. Chip's run, Snyder run, from the team run. Figure out why Spider-Man isn't working. That should be your only priority. Like Spider-Man working, the rest will work. And Spider-Man, it's not even. I wouldn't even say Spider-Man's necessarily been bad. It's just not been consistent. It's not been like everyone has a quorum. And I get that Spider-Man's a harder character to write than Batman. Batman, just go darker and you're fine. Right? Is this not working? All right, go darker. Like a little more dark, add a little darkness, and you can't really do that with Spider-Man. But that would be the other thing. And then I wouldn't necessarily cancel. I would really go back to the old way of doing things. Remember how they had like the Spidey office, and the Spidey had like 6 books, but it wasn't like, it was like Spidey and New Warriors were kind of in that apartment. Like I would go back to that format where they kind of like, you knew where you stood. If you like cosmic, this is the cosmic, like supernatural, and you kind of have like 5 titles and put a hard number on those. And that's, I think sub books are good. I think spinoffs are good, but doing that, I would also really encourage, figuring out what the things that should be working that aren't. Runaways should always be a title. Like it's that good. It's that good of a concept. Like it should always be a title. Same thing with New Warriors, in my opinion, or Nova. Like there's all these characters at Marvel who I'm like, it is ridiculous that they don't have titles. So let's figure out how to fix that to get them consistent. And I think the rest will work itself out.
My first order of business would be to bring back the house style.
Yeah.
If I were Marvel, I would bring in Gail Simone and have her develop the house style of writing for Marvel Comics, because what Gail is doing right now with X-Men is great. And just hey, Travis, we're going to let you write Spider-Man.
Sure.
Just here's the Bible. Have fun. Here's the Bible.
Right.
And then I'd bring in whoever my top artist is. Is it Steggy? Is it John Jr.? Is it whoever? Write a Bible. This is how women look in the Marvel Universe. This is how men look in the Marvel Universe. Doesn't matter race, doesn't matter age, doesn't matter whatever. This is your standards. And have everybody live to those standards. And if they couldn't, they're done. What we can't have is one book that looks like $1 million and one book that looks like it was colored by kindergartners. And I know kindergartners who can draw better than some people who are currently working on Marvel books. The second thing I would do is cut the number of covers by 75%.
Sure.
You get 2 covers, an A and a B. And if it's a really big issue, we'll give you a 1 in 10. And then anybody who wants to do anything other than that, we'll talk store exclusives. We'll talk, special printings. We'll talk whatever. But the market is only going to exist in as many as 3 covers. And then my fourth thing, would I steal from DC? My B cover would be a card stock and would be $1 more. But we would also take the trade dress down to a minimum and let the art shine. You want Peach Momoko Marvel variants? They're going to be card stock. They're going to be $1 more. And we're not going to plaster a big typeface across the front. We're going to let the art shine. That would be my first 4. I have a 5th, but the 5th is real business esoteric, which would be we're going to find a way to pay royalties to these creators who we owe royalties for bastardizing their characters for years. So that would be my 5th one. But again, that would be a real Business Insider one that doesn't really affect the reader.
That's you getting a Kevin Feige job, not head of Marvel job. They're different.
Well, it's true. Let's put it this way. Dan Buckley was the keynote last year at Comics Pro, and I talked to him for a while about, hey, man, why? Why is there not some sort of Marvel Legends? If WWE can find a way to pay the Iron Sheik until the day he dies, why can't Marvel pay Fabrice for Spider-Man Noir? Or why can't Marvel pay, Gene Colan's estate?
Why is Peter David having a GoFundMe?
Right, exactly. Why is the guy who single-handedly made Hulk and Captain Marvel cool again not able to pay his medical bills? And I kind of just ask him, why is it? And he just goes, there's no business model for it. Well, guess what? If you've watched the experience long enough, I built a business model here. We can build one there. We'll figure it out, right? If we're not paying $1 million for 75 covers of a book, maybe we can afford to, hey, Peter David, here's some money for a transfusion, homie. I don't know. But that's my thought. Right, but they paid him he was getting WWE money, Steve, until the day he died. And I think his estate still gets paid on his likeness. So, like I said, I think that's what I would do.
Well, and the Legends contract, going back specifically to the Legends contract, it was built because the network was coming and they were going to start losing money. These people who were counting on this money. So they needed to figure out a way to keep them. And it also benefited them as well. And they have Legends contracts right now, kind of. like Chris Claremont's on a Legends contract. He's always got a 5-issue that's going to roll into a 5-issue. Because they want him and he's exclusive to Marvel. I think they should be doing that more often, though. I think they have the money. If they don't, just have Scotty Young do another run of covers and you're fine. Like you make it that way, it's fine. Everybody has to pay.
It's true. So we're gonna wrap up a little early tonight, I think, with this show, just because I think it's there wasn't a ton of news. There'll be a lot more next week. And I want to give Travis some more time to talk about Granite State Punk before we wrap up. But did anybody read anything today that really hit them, or yesterday, or in the last couple of days that really hit them? Is, hey, this is something you might not have picked up that you got to go grab?
So the only thing that I read that was like extra is I just read this morning a TMNT 6. Jason Aaron's killing it, and I don't know if you know this, but a lot of comic stores that I've talked to, people have been dropping the Ninja Turtles, and not because of the quality. They didn't like the single turtle issue, and they were confused on how it was going to be going forward, which is wild to me that you don't have a store that can explain this to your customers. But I've heard this story from several. So if you weren't picking it up, they're all together now. Like, let's go. Jason Aaron was born to make that book, It needed to be, when you look at people who love The Last Ronin, it's like bringing that back to what it needs to be, to bring it to that edge that it had in the 90s,
Just to be clear, like, I am the biggest turtle fan maybe on the planet, and I had to have Tom Waltz explain to me what was happening in terms of the publication.
Okay.
Because I had gotten it wrong. Kevin Eastman's doing a show here in a week, and he's selling my inventory because I have more at the moment than he does. So just understand that was confusing as hell.
Sure.
Triple B, anything?
Yeah, man, no, I haven't. I read the Laura Kinley Wolverine issue number 2. I finished that one. Finished Hell Heist from Zenoscope issue 2, and that was like the final one of it. And where it went was, wow, it went biblical is what it did. I liked it. Honestly, I thought it was pretty good. It totally took a left turn on me on it. I'm like, oh, this is where they're going to go. And when they went there, they really went there. So I dug Hell Heist issue number 2. It maybe been out for like a month or a month and a half. I can't quite remember when it came out, but
hey,
yeah,
that's great. And that's one of those that I missed. I didn't see it come out. I had read the first one. I need to read the second one. So thank you for that.
Yeah. No spoilers there. It was good.
Yeah. No, everybody, Triple B's got to bounce because he's got to do the dad and the Average Joe thing. So everybody head over on YouTube, Triple B Haunted Comics on the YouTubes. He does a live show every Tuesday before this one.
Wednesday.
Or Wednesday. What day is today?
Wednesday.
It's bleeping Wednesday.
They all just kind of merged together, man. They had the last week and a half.
It's been Wednesday all day, Kyle.
Yeah, but it's still January, right?
Sure, buddy. Sure.
No, so head over and follow Triple B over there on the YouTubes. He does some great content, some great unboxings, and he does his live. So make sure you check that one out.
It.
Thanks, Triple B.
Guys. All right, man. You guys have a great night. Nice
we'll see you,
Travis.
Yep. Nice meeting you.
Later, guys.
All right. So, Jay, did you pick up anything? Did you read anything that hit you?
Actually, strangely enough, it's out in the living room. I don't have it back here with me. I actually picked up an issue of Redcoat #1.
Nice.
Obviously we've read those, and that's been out for a while, but I didn't actually own a physical copy. And I think it was Sunday. Jenna and I went and we had like wings at this place and gorged out on wings. Had to take some home because we ordered way too many. And she's like, you know what? I want to walk this off a little bit. Let's go check out. It was a comic shop down the street. We didn't go to Space Cadets because I believe Miss Jen's closed on Sundays. So we went in and we were walking around. I was like, I've read this, but I don't own a physical copy. Kind of like with I always say it wrong. Harrower and Where Monsters Lie. We read those digitally, but I was like, I still want the issue because I'm a trade person. So what I'm going to do is, especially for stories I like and I've already read and I love, I'll pick up issue 1 and then I'll wait for a trade and I'll pick up the trade. But Redcoat, it's a awesome. That whole Ghost Machine universe, everything that I've read so far. There's a few of them I haven't read yet. People in our chat, I know especially Nope has been keeping up with that stuff. Man, it's such a good universe, the stuff I've read. So
yeah, absolutely. I can't talk enough about Dave Chisholm and Rick Quinn's Spectrum.
Sure.
So good. Dave and Travis, I know Dave and Rick, right? Like
Yeah, I've met them. I don't know them well, but I know them and I know the work they put in to get there. So
yeah, no, it's they are phenomenal creators and this book is insanely good. So I can't talk enough about that. But for me, the book this week that like just hit the hardest was one I didn't expect. And I picked it up at my LCS today without any really any real indication as to why. I just grabbed it. Was sorry, it was the Green Lantern Corps #1.
Okay.
I'm not a DC reader. I don't read DC. Like the last DC I read was Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen a couple years ago, and it was only because my friend was drawing the stupid book. Right? It's like, so I
heard good things about that book. I didn't read it, but I heard it was fantastic.
it was great. But that was the only reason I read it. Was because, hey, this is something that my friend is drawing. I'm going to make a point to read this book. But I picked it up because as much as I'm not a Lanterns reader, as much as I'm not a DC reader, I wanted to dive into something that felt like it was going somewhere. And that book, just flipping the pages, felt like it was going somewhere, and boy, was it. Like, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend is pissed at me because we were supposed to be hanging out, and I'm sitting on her couch, and she's like, watch TV with me. I'm in the middle of a comic book. Watch TV with me. I'm in the middle of a comic book. Watch TV with me. I'm in the middle of a comic book. Like, several times, because I read it 3 times today.
Wow.
Like, I'm very excited for this series, but if you didn't get Lenore the Time War, go out and grab Lenore, just because the next book won't be out for like 25 years, and so you have plenty of time to digest what you read. And did you ever read Lenore?
Yeah.
Well, so it's been 7 years since the last issue.
Right.
But they got a new one out that is just incredible. Came out today. So that is one that I would recommend highly.
Yeah, I had a big stack, so I missed last week because of MegaCon. So I got this. And then they didn't have, because of Diamond, they didn't have Marvel. And I'm a Marvel guy, so my bigger stack is always Marvel. So I got a bunch today. But all I've read is I read Absolute Batman, which was really good. They finally ended the first arc. So we're at the end of the first arc, which is wild. So we got to that. Philip Kennedy Johnson read his Batman, also really good. Not quite done there, but some really good punches in that. I like a good punch. And then Feral, man, that book delivers every single issue, every issue. I don't even like cats as much as I like dogs. I don't even understand.
Is there a team hotter right now than Tony and Trish?
No.
I can't think of one. And I love Tone Rodriguez to death. So the fact that he's on Feral too just makes me happy.
Yeah.
So real quick, we have a question in the comments. Will we be continuing Triple T or something similar? I missed my trivia nights. Rayla, not in the immediate future. We definitely are trying to have somebody, trying to have Chuck back because we all love Chuck Pino. Chuck is one of the best people around. But Chuck is getting his, his stuff worked out that he needed to get worked out, and we want to give him time to do that. But also, we here at the Experience are going through a little bit of a shuffle our own selves. And so as we get things settled down here, hopefully we'll be able to bring that back or something similar. But it's just a matter of time. And as we talked about early in the show, we need to wait for the waves to calm down in the whole comic book business before we can really make any hard and firm, distinct plans going forward, if that makes any sense. I mean, Jay, should I just go into it a little bit, or?
Yes, go ahead.
So, as you all know, the Experience exists because comic book people have helped to fund the Experience. When comic book people are hurting because Diamond owes them mountains of money, they are unable to help us fund the Experience as much, which means in the last few months, we've had to not let go, but lay off several of our behind-the-scenes folks. It's why Dan Wickline's show is not around anymore. It's why all of a sudden I'm doing the shows on Thursday nights. Things like that. We've had to sort of shuffle. It's why social media all of a sudden is both great because Danny's doing it and terrible because I'm doing it. Things like that. And until we get through this sort of wavy period, right, where everything's sort of up in the air and kind of get our floor set again, we aren't really able to expand at the rate we had planned, if that makes sense. And part of that expansion was bringing back Chuck's show, was launching 4 or 5 new shows here in the first quarter. Now, as we're going to hopefully make an announcement in the next week or so for the Experience that will help to stem that tide. But in the meantime, we're going to do our best to keep things going as well as possible. So, like, we might not be able to have Talking Shop like we were, but hey, we have this show. Travis has got a book. Let's have Travis on this show. Next week, I think maybe Dan and Jay are going to do this show because Dan has a book he's putting out. Some things like that. We're going to try and find other opportunities to keep including our friends, to keep putting good product in front of you, to keep supporting the people we want to support. We're just going to have to do it in a little bit of a different way, if that makes sense. So our fun trivia show will be back. It might be a little different. It might be the same, but that is all just sort of on pause, and my TV is on the Roku, screensaver mode for a couple more weeks to a month, maybe a little bit longer, as we sort this stuff out.
Basically, what Kyle just said is Canadians will let you down. And Chuck is Canadian, and he lets you down because that's what Canada does. Right? That's what you said. I want to help it for people who came in at different parts, Kyle, and understood.
So, and I wish he was here to hear that.
So here's what's hysterical.
Chuck knows I would say that to him.
Here's what's hysterical. Where Chuck lives right now is geographically closer to me than the city of Detroit. and that doesn't mean anything, but like Detroit is still in America and Chuck's in Canada. So it's one of those things is that I love Chuck. I want to do more with Chuck, but we just gotta, like I said, we've got to find our way through the fog at the moment, and we're working on it. So
the tariffs are too high on Canada trivia, correct? And any self-respected president of Canada would not have let him talk to America right now. So all these reasons are why. I got you, Kyle. I got you.
Yeah, no, there will be no Kyle and Jay animated series, only because we ran out of ink for my gut. It took too much color. So, like I said, we're working on a bunch of stuff that's just kind of on hold, and including bringing Chuck back. So, in the meantime, like I said, I wanted to wrap up a little early, but I want to give Travis some time. Give everybody the pitch on Granite State Punk. Give everybody the whole rundown of what's on Kickstarter and why this is the book to grab if they haven't already.
Yeah. Can I show it real quick?
Yeah, heck yeah. Please, we have visual aids. This is like almost like a professional show.
Let's do it. Yeah. So this is the Granite State Punk. This is the latest Kickstarter. You know, it's Live Through or Die 1 through 5. So what Granite State Punk is, it's about the state of New Hampshire, which most of you probably don't know about unless you're from the state of New Hampshire. In the state of New Hampshire, there is a mountain. It used to look like a face, and it looked at everything in the whole state. It fell down. This is a punk rock guy who wants nothing to do with any of it. The whole world, he hates it all. But he happens to be connected to a coven of witches, and those coven of witches mess him up. This book has 5 issues, all of them been out. This is the 5th one. He's really cool. Here's Zeke right here. He's a middle-aged man. He's straight edge, kind of. He's a warlord from New Hampshire, kind of prick, hates everyone. You know, each of the old series, as you see, it's kind of got a really cool punk rock vibe. We do homage covers to Rancid. If you look, here's a Rancid cover. But this is kind of the culmination of everything. This book is really, you know, even though it's about witches and all this other cool stuff, it's really about survival and like mental health. And he's a recovering alcoholic and trying to deal with a lot of that stuff. I take a lot of my personal trauma and I turn it into really cool stories in this universe. You know, this book is very personal to me. Most people who read my work, this is the one that people want to read and want to hear about. Because it's really something special, and I do things in this book that you've never done before. You know, for instance, we talked about Deadpool earlier. This character Zeke breaks the 4th wall. I tell you why he's breaking the 4th wall, and how it's not necessarily a good thing. Like I explain things that haven't been explained, as far as I know, in comics before. So he's a little John Constantine during the 80s when he's punk rock, except for unlike John Constantine, he's never going to be good at magic. He's just not good at that stuff. And he's not really good at life or relationships or anything of that nature. Each of these books are a series of one-shots, so you can get one without the rest. However, this last one, I'd really recommend you get. You've read some of them before to catch up.
Yeah, I think I got the very first one from you. Maybe it was a PDF. I don't 100% remember how I got it even.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, gee whiz, Travis, get out of my head. Because like as an aging punk rocker who doesn't look like a punk rocker anymore, who's got addiction and, you know, all of these things, trauma, like
Right.
It really did feel like home in a way that I was uncomfortable with. And guys, it really is a super fun book. I don't know why I just did that. Even though it's maybe not like a romp, I wouldn't call it that. If you're from a certain era and you've hung out in certain clubs and you've never been kicked in the face by somebody with spikes on their collar or in their hair, you're gonna relate to this book on some level, right?
Absolutely. Well, and even more if you've gone through something and you don't feel seen, or like you've gone through addiction, or you always say the wrong thing. Like that's this character. He's trying to figure it out. But so this book, the origin story of it, there's a couple of origin stories, but one of the origin stories that I like to share is my mom and my dad died very suddenly. And then also my grandma. So my 3 anchors to the state of New Hampshire died. And then I come from a alcoholic and drug family. So I had a lot of bad memories there. So now everything was trauma when I thought about the Granite State Punk. So I had to figure it out. So I had to figure all that stuff out. And this book came out to me from my grandmother. She gave me some money when she passed away. I hired the best artist I knew who I thought fit with this, because Patrick Brumeyer is fantastic. He has a punk rock style that you've never seen before. And it's about me trying to fall back in love with the state, because I have a son. I have a 5-year-old son, and me trying to fall back in love to something, because you've got to show your kid where you came from. And you see that in the page. Like, I will trash everything about the state and about the people in it, about what's going on. But with all that stuff, you'll see how much I love the state of New Hampshire. And I show different things and sites. Like, someone actually read this book and says, I don't know anybody who loves anything more than the state of New Hampshire than you do. And I was like, oh, I don't even think I do. But pours out of me when you read this. Like, I love it. In fact, I even on the YouTube channel, look at failed to post. I can give away the first digital.
Fantastic. Oh, okay. I see it.
Yeah, I don't. It didn't comment for some reason.
Yeah,
but maybe you can post it from the private chat.
Yeah, I will. I will put a link in the comments. And I will actually, while I'm here, I'm going to put it in this. Well, I can't while we're live. I will add it to the description of this video. If you want to read issue 1, there is a link in the comments. And just because Rayla's asking, Rayla has some, some financial that she's got to figure out. Probably, but that won't settle until after the next 45 hours are over, because there's 45 hours left to pledge, y'all. Will this be available after the Kickstarter through your website, through your traditional channels?
Yes, absolutely. So you'll be able to get it through all my channels as well. We will have late pledges on too, so that'll be for a month or two. You'll be able to get late pledges and get it. You could already go to the website orangeconeproductions.com to get some stuff. Raylan asked, will the digital catch up? Yeah, if you buy the $20 digital catch, I think it's $20, you get all of them. You get all 5.
There you go.
Yeah, if you get, hold on, what's the pledge level? Where is it? Yeah, all 5. Complete digital collection, $24. You get all of them.
Fantastic. And like I said, that's one of the things I love about Travis, guys, that, I don't know that enough credit gets given to creators who do this. Is the Kickstarter exists, the Kickstarter gets the book made, but it's not going to not be available, right? It's going to be in some way or another. You're going to be able to buy the book, even if you don't get in on the Kickstarter. Not enough guys are doing that nowadays. And at the same time, I really appreciate when they do, because, sometimes these campaigns end off pay period, or they end, oh God, I just had to put brakes on my car. I can't pledge the Kickstarter now. Well, I still want to support my friends. So having the ability to buy it through their website or buy it through late pledges or one of those things is super helpful. So shout out to Travis for doing that, and a lot of others who are starting to do that.
Yeah, I try to keep, I wouldn't say I'm the lowest, but I try to keep it as affordable as I can on Kickstarter. So my books aren't that much. The covers aren't that much. You're not going to have to buy a $50 cover. Like the highest cover is $25. I don't do that because comics are meant to be read, and I really want people to read this. To be able to do that. In fact, when you back, thank you, Eddie. It's a good deal. Any of the add-on issues are I think $5 or $10. So like if you get it, and you missed one, I give you the opportunity to get that and make sure you can catch up, because I want this read. I really think this series and this particular issue is the best thing I've ever wrote. I actually hold on, I gotta say one more thing. The other day I read it. I read the last issue, and I really read it. And I looked at my wife. I was like, do I have a problem? I think Granite State Punk is my favorite book. And I wrote it. So is that a problem? Is that like an ego thing? Because I really felt that good about it when I read it. I was just like, I think this is my favorite book. And I think your book should be your favorite books.
Right. If you're not happy with what you put out, what are you even doing? Right.
Yeah.
So something I want to add that I usually say to everybody, especially because I'm big into Kickstarter stuff, is even if you don't back, share the campaign out. There are sometimes I've noticed, especially with Kickstarters, no matter how hard the creator tries pushing it out there, sometimes Kickstarter isn't the best at letting you know what's going on or when it ends. Or there's been times I've found books that I was like, man, I would have totally backed that had I known about it. So, if even if it's not something that you're into, maybe if you know somebody that would be into it, just share it out. I mean, that does a lot to help the creators get their book out there. So,
absolutely. So, all right, I'm going to put the link. So we've got the link for number 1 in there. I'm going to put or even pledge $1. Right. Eddie is correct. Any little bit helps. Always.
And for me, you'll probably get the book because I'm way too lazy to figure out who bid the dollar or the minimum pledge. So you'll probably get the book for $1. I mean, I'd rather have more than $1, but like I'm gonna be honest.
Right. Right. Well, and exactly. That's that's a trend I'm seeing a lot too. Is guys going, look, you gave me $1, here's the book. I don't, whatever.
Right.
I mean, hell, we just gave away #1 for free here.
Yeah.
In the chat. So I'm gonna put the link for the Kickstarter in the chat one more time. Follow Orange Cone Productions everywhere. Orange Cone Productions. Travis, tell everybody all the things.
So the best way to find me is orangeconeproductions.com. That's where you can buy all the books. However, if you want to get inside access on what I'm doing or all the books that I'm doing, I am at travisgibb.substack.com. I do weekly email updates and talk about life and talk about comics and talk about some of the deeper subjects like we were today. The other thing is follow me on any social media. Find me. If you are a creator, really reach out to me because I run a great Substack that's over 300 people and strong that post all the time. Not Substack, Discord, where we build a community and help each other out. And there's some big names in there too. So if you want to get access and want to learn more about how to make the best comics or be part of a community or join the community, reach out to me and see if we can get you involved.
Yeah, Travis has done. Are you still doing the Hangouts live on the internet?
I am tomorrow night. Yeah, we'll be tomorrow night at 9:30. I'll be doing the Hangouts to try to get people backers, get myself backers. Yep, that'll be tomorrow night.
Yeah, Travis has really great creator Hangouts that you know what? F it, $25 isn't going to make or break my college fund. Hey, Rayla, like, appreciate that so much. But, I don't think any of us would condone, like, owing your college money to buy comic books, especially when you can buy them after you know if you're going to owe your college money or not.
Right. And you'll always owe your college money. That's going to happen. There's not a college that I don't care if you paid the whole thing, tuition up in front, full scholarship. You still owe them money.
They'll find a way to get you. That's true. That's so true. Oh my God. I got a letter from a college I failed out of almost 20 years ago today going, hey, we found this bill. And my response was, good luck.
I actually finally got lucky and I actually got my college stuff paid for finally. Because I went to I ended up getting screwed over and going to a partly scam college. Like they were like, and it kept, because the Republicans and Democrats are playing with it. So like some years it'd be like, you don't have to pay that back. You're good. You got screwed over. My bad. Then other years you're like, yes, you do. And I'm back in the you don't have to pay it back category. We'll see.
DeVry? ITT.
It's called FMU is what it was called. Florida.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I remember that.
Yeah. It was bad. Luckily, like my degree on my wall is UCF. It's not fair because they bought that graduating class to try to get some stuff in. So luckily I have a valid degree, but I had a bullshit college.
Yeah, no. We won't talk about my college. Anyway, real quick before we wrap up, I'm a huge fan of Constantine. If this is punk rock John, then I'm in. It is. Rayla, good work. But Rayla asked a question, and I want to wrap up. But she asked, what shows are still here? So most of our shows are still around, right, here on The Experience. Just some shuffling. Talking Shop is coming back in early March with a guy that I don't know that I can tell you his name yet. But I will tell you that he is, we mentioned the person he works with earlier, i.e. A certain Todd Father. It's not Todd, it's somebody else. You know what, screw it, I'm just going to say it. Guy named Thomas Healy, who is the editor of Spawn and who is writing Spawn 77 and a new book coming out called Black Ritual, the book of Nyx in the Spawn universe. So we will be relaunching the show with him, and then we have a number of episodes booked up. They're not going to be every week. They're going to be every couple of weeks, so we can have bigger guests. We can spend more time with those guests. We can have, more fluent shows with those guests. But then Comic Collectibles is still here. Best Coast Comics is still here. Minute to Skim It. We have a new show in place of what used to be Mint Hunter Comics, which is Welcome to Wonderland, which is another pal of Travis and I's, Mr. Rich Davis.
Yeah.
So he's hosting that show. Then Kicking It with Henry with Honest Henry from Chicago. On Tuesdays. Again, another independent creator. Then on Wednesdays we have Comic Collectibles in this show, the Kyle and Jay Q&A, where I promise to come up with better titles in the future. And then Thursday nights, What's in the Box with Miss Jen, the Geek Chat with Beardy Rich and Beardy Dez, and Sketch Up with Mel and Mog Park. Everybody, great artist. Then Friday we have FOC shows, Final Order Cutoff, Order Up, Kicking Henry with it. It's true. If anybody can kick Henry, it would be Travis. Anyway, or me, or Jay, or really anyone can kick Henry. But no, Friday.
He probably apologized. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
We kick him and he apologized to us.
Sorry, did I get in your way? Right, it's true. But he does it in that Chicago accent, so you're never sure if he's serious. But then Fridays, we have Final Order Cutoff show, Order Up with myself and Matthias Lewis from Nowhere Comics and Games in San Diego. We have the Original Art Experience with Nick and Friday Night Live with Nancy McCann from Comics Unlimited. So still a full schedule. Just we had to trim a little things here and there and kind of shuffle some things around. But the experience is still going strong and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think this week the Geek Chat is off because they're going to see Cap 4.
They're hosting a Cap 4 event in San Francisco. So if you're there, find out which theater they're going to.
That's awesome. And, last week, same time, SketchUp was off, but they'll be back. So
then next week, we will have to see. Nick will be doing the art show next week. Nick is not coming to Comics Pro. That is confirmed. But Miss Jen and I will both be there. So we're not sure what's going on with Minute to Skim It or with this show, but we will figure that out and let everybody know via social media starting right away. If you're watching the show, I just do want to let you know Friday night on the art show, it will be a fundraiser for, I can't remember his name, but he was a police officer who was part of the comic art fans community who was killed in the line of duty last week. So all the sales from the art show will go to his family and the fund to take care of his expenses. So watch the show with Nick on Friday. Travis, thank you for being here, man. Congratulations on funding.
Thank you.
And I hope that we get a bunch more backers, including myself here as soon as we get off the air, to Granite State Punk. So yes, Jason Roscoe. Yes. Thank you, TJ. So support that family as well. But check out Travis's Kickstarter. We will be back. Jay will be back next week. I will be, at this point, I will probably be in a really boring meeting about metadata that I will be like the most excited person in the room for. So just know that next week will be wild. So make sure you tune in for that. I'm going to try and get Dan and maybe it looks like maybe Ed will be joining Jay next week. We'll see. So thank you once again to Travis. Thank you to Triple B, who was here earlier. Thank you to Jay and everybody in the comments for being here. This has been Kyle and Jay's Q&A, where I don't think we actually answered any Qs, but we may have made A's of ourselves. So with that said, we will see everybody next time.